I've seen many strange things in my career as a boxing fan, but of course, when boxing went fully prime time in the late 70s, early 1980s, I think a lot of this was a cause of this gentleman. He took on Muhammad Ali in his 8 pro fight and he won the World Heavyweight Championship. And he lost to Ali in the rematch, but allowed Ali to win the title for a third time, which of course was kind of unbreakable because the lineal title now, it's non-existent. Now, unfortunately, the news came down today that Leon Spinks, who was basically a high echelon cruiserweight and heavyweight for a number of years, passed away. Now, like I said, in his 8th professional fight, he won the undisputed heavyweight championship, which of course was WBA Ring Magazine. WBC split off with Larry Holmes and Ken Norton, but again, the rematch. Now, I watched the fight. He won the fight by split decision. At the time, Ali was about 5 years past his prime, was fighting a lot of lower-end contenders, Chucky Wepner, Ernie Shavers, Alfredo Evangelista, Jimmy Young as well. Basically, it was a matter of time. But you see, Leon Spinks started as Olympic hero, him and his brother Michael, and the momentum was he was probably going to fight for a cruiserweight or a heavyweight championship down the road, but it came early because the handlers of Ali and Spinks felt it was a good match. And again, it was a pity-pat fight. Both fights, it wasn't that Spinks really hurt Ali. Ali was not the fighter he was before. Now, when the upset occurred, Spinks was eventually, like I said, stripped of the title for facing Ali in an unimproved rematch 7 months later, which he lost by unanimous decision. Now, both fights were shown prime time in the States and Canada, drew huge ratings, and again, that was the last golden era of boxing across North America. Now, besides being heavyweight champion, he was known for a lot of things because some people questioned his intelligence, some people questioned the way he looked. He had a gap-toothed grin because he lost his teeth previously. Now, he gained notoriety because he didn't really follow up on the win with Ali with a good career. He eventually did challenge once more for the WBC title in '81, losing to Larry Holmes by TKO in the third round. And he also lost a tough fight against Dwight Muhammad Kayi, or Dwight Braxton, in 1986 for the cruiserweight, which was an 192 to 201 pound division. Now, Spinks wasn't a natural heavyweight. When he fought in the light heavyweight division as an amateur, that was mostly his best division at 175. Now, he won major medals at the 74 World Championship, taking bronze, won silver at the Pan Ams in 75, and then gold in Montreal in the special summer with the U.S. Olympic team that year, because you had Sugar Ray Leonard, Leo Randolph, Michael himself. Now, he was also in the Marines for 3 years, which of course aided his boxing career. Now, he also had a brief career as a professional wrestler in 1990, working for Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling, and he also held the FMW Brass Knuckles title in '92. Now, in his amateur career, he won 3 straight national AAU light heavyweight championships from 74 to 76. The first, which came against future world champion and multiple contender Michael Dokes. Now, when he won the light heavyweight gold medal at the Summer Olympics in Montreal, he defeated Abdel Latif Fatai, Anatoly Klimanov, Audemars Sanchez, and Janusz Gotat en route to the final, where he defeated Sixto Soria to win the gold. Now, you see the amount of fighters back then. There was multiple countries in the boxing tournament, so to beat 5 fighters, pretty big. And his amateur career was tremendous: 178-7 with 133 knockouts. Now, Spinks debuted professionally on January 15, 1977 in Las Vegas, beating Bob Smith by knockout in 5 rounds. His next fight was in Liverpool, England, where he bet Peter Freeman by a first-round KO. Now, he saw a marked improvement in opposition. He fought longtime contender Pedro Augusta of Puerto Rico, knocked him out in round 1. Then he fought Scott Ledoux, which was a top 20 contender, to a draw, and defeated Italian champion Alfredo Righetti, another top 20-25 contender, by a decision. Now, Now, at the time, you wouldn't see a fighter with only 8 fights take on a world championship. You would probably go USBA or NABF or Continental's title or whatever. But the organizers running Ali and Spinks' career felt he should be put against Ali. And on February 15th, 1978, he defeated Ali in a 15-round split decision. Now, I had Spinks winning 9 rounds to 6 because Ali didn't do enough in the fight. And again, he was pretty well washed up long before the fight against Larry Holmes, when he was almost killed in the ring. Now, this was the shortest time in history for a fighter to win a world title on 8 bouts. Although there was people that challenged for the title in their first fights previously, I think against Patterson, it didn't work out. Now, the aging Ali, according to published reports and Ring, different publications of World Boxing, Ali had said he expected an easy fight, but he was outboxed by Spinks, who did not tire throughout the bout. It was one of the few occasions when Ali left the ring with a bruised and puffy face. You see, a light heavyweight and cruiserweight, like a Bob Foster or Dwight Braxton, could do a lot of damage to a heavyweight because a little bit quicker and a little bit better reach. And Spinks, he had talent. You can win, Olympic championship in 178 amateur fights without having some quality. Now, the victory over Ali was the peak of Spinks' career. He was the only man to take the title from Ali in the ring, as Ali's other losses were non-title contests or bouts where Ali was a challenger. Spinks' gape-toothed grin was also featured on the February 19, 1978 issue of Sports Illustrated, which started heavy derision in the boxing field because he questioned his intellectuality, questioned his drug intake. Some people said he was partially mentally challenged. I don't believe that. Like I said, he was a Spinks. He was a quality fighter. Now, when Spinks decided to fight Ali in a rematch, the WBC took away the title, gave it to Ken Norton. Ken Norton fought Larry Holmes. Norton had fought Ali and lost a controversial decision. For people in the WBC, they thought Norton was the uncrowned champion, and when he lost to Holmes, Holmes took the belt. Norton was given the belt and lost it to Holmes. Okay. Now, again, the second match with Ali, a part of a super card, if you can find it on YouTube. Multiple big fights and title fights. Louisiana Superdome, September 15, 78, went badly for Spinks. Ali, who seemed out of shape in the last fight, entered the fight with better, sharper tactics. No rope-a-dope, rarely lost control, winning back his title by unanimous 15-round decision. Now, Ali gained the belt, again, becoming the first 3-time lineal heavyweight champion. Now, Spinks was never given a rematch because Ali retired, although he came out of retirement a few years later for the disastrous fight against Larry Holmes and the Jamaican, craziness against former Canadian champion and world champion Trevor Birkin. Now, Spinks' next fight, he's only won in 79, was at Monte Carlo, where he was knocked out in the first round by future WBA world heavyweight champion Jerry Coetzee. Now, in the following fight, Spinks defeated former world title challenger and European title holder Alfredo Evangelista by knockout in round 5. He fought to a draw later on with Eddie Lopez, and in May 80 he scored a knockout over Kevin Isaac, and in October bet the WBC's top-ranked challenger Bernardo Mercado, another former Canadian boxing champion, don't ask me why, by a knockout in round 9, and this fight was on the undercard of Ali versus Larry Holmes. Now, his strong performance against Mercado earned Spinks a title match against Larry Holmes. You can find the fight on YouTube. It was Spinks' only fight of 81, and what would be his last opportunity to win the heavyweight title. He had a clear loss by TKO in the 3rd round at the fight, which was held at St. Louis Arena in Detroit on June 12th. Now, that fight, Spinks did show signs of being able to hold it with Larry, but Larry at the time, one of the best jabs in boxing in that era. He basically took him apart piece by piece. Now, this was a few years before Tyson showed up, so keep that in mind. Now, it was Spinks' last heavyweight bout for years, as he began boxing in the lower weight cruiserweight division. He bet contender Ivy Brown by a decision in 10 rounds, and gained a decision against former and future title challenger Jesse Burnett in 12. Now, Spinks was due to face the World Cruiserweight #1 David Pierce, but a fight was called off on 24 hours' notice after fighters had both weighed in. Now, due to the BBBOC stance on Pierce fighting abroad in a newly formed cruiserweight division. Now, when his brother Michael Spinks defeated Larry Holmes in a controversial upset for the IBF title in '85, they became the only brothers who held both both hold the world title. They kept that distinction until the Klitschko brothers became champions 2 decades later. Now, in the 1980s, Spinks competed in several boxer versus wrestler matches in New Japan, including losing by submission to Antonio Inoki. In '86, Spinks earned last championship opportunity, fighting Dwight Muhammad Kai, or Dwight Braxton, for the WBA Cruiserweight Championship. The Kai had been defeated by Michael Spinks 3 years earlier for his WBC Light Heavyweight Championship. However, Leon lost by TKO in the 6th round. During the fight, Kai taunted Spinks as he bet him mercilessly in a corner. Now, Spinks boxed for another 8 years with mixed results. In '94, he lost a bout by KO to John Carlo, the first time a former heavyweight champion had lost to a boxer making his pro debut. As promoter Charles Farrell later admit the falsifying Carlo's record in order to get the fight sanctioned by the District of Columbia. Spinks retired at age 42 after losing an 8-round decision to Fred Hope in '95, who was coming off a 17-year hiatus. Now again, during the 1990s, Spinks worked for Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling, winning its world title in '92, making him the only second man after Primo Carrera to hold titles in both boxing and wrestling. In the 1990s, Spinks was a major headliner on year-round touring autograph shows. Now, in 2009, Spinks was featured as part of the 2009 documentary Facing Ali, in which notable former opponents of Ali speak about how fighting Ali changed their lives. As of 2017, he was living in Las Vegas, and he was inducted in Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame that year with his brother Michael. Now, born and raised in St. Louis, Leon's son, the great Corey Spinks, held the undisputed welterweight title and was the IBF junior middleweight champion twice. Now, in 1990, Leon's other son, Leon Calvin, unfortunately was shot to death in East St. Louis driving home from his girlfriend's house. At the time, he was an aspiring light heavyweight pro boxer with a 2-0 record, with the 2 pro bouts occurring only a month before he died. Now, Leon's grandson and Calvin's son, Leon Spinks III, has been an aspiring light heavyweight southpaw boxer with an 11-3-1 record with 7 knockouts. And his last outing was again a 6-round draw with Robbie Cannon in October 2017. Now, Spinks, who had suffered, some in-ring beatings, was diagnosed in 2012 with shrinkage in his brain, which doctors said was likely caused by punches he took during his career. Now, Spinks and his wife Brenda again moved to Las Vegas in 2011. Spinks was eventually hospitalized twice in 2014 in Las Vegas for surgery due to abdominal problems, from which he recovered. Now, unfortunately, he was diagnosed with advanced prostate cancer in 2019, and again, he died February 5th, 2021 at age 67. So, professional record, 26 wins, 17 losses, 3 draws. And again, an interesting situation. He fought for quite a number of years, and he fought a well-known Canadian contender, Shane Sutcliffe, in 1994, which drew a lot of press in my home country of Canada. He also fought Tony Morrison. He fought Randall Tex Cobb, Jose Ribalta, another contender for a while. Rocky Sigorsky, another top 30, top 20 contender. Now, and Carlos De Leon, he also fought as well, a very respected fighter. So, if life would have went different for Leon, let's say he would not fought elite, let's say he would have went to the multiple belt situation, WBA, WBC, taking on people like John Tate, Cali Canozzi, Jerry Coetzee, Mike Weaver, who was around at the time. Dwight Braxton was moving up. It just seems his career was rushed. But I remember him, ladies and gentlemen, He's been made fun a lot. But it's not his fault he defeated Ali. Ali could have won that fight. He didn't do enough to win. It wasn't Leon's fault that Ali thought he was going to be an easy mark. If you win as many amateur titles like he did, be a triple U.S. champion, he has my respect. I'm not going to make fun of the man because maybe he wasn't as intellectual or brainy as other boxers. But my God, you remember, if you grew up in the 1970s like I did, with Leonard and Duran and all these fighters, Leon was part of that, and Michael was part of that. So what we remember growing up, we all remember sitting down and watching those two fights with Spinks and Ali, getting a pizza, getting a 2-liter of pop, or Dixie Lee or whatever. And you know, boxing was king back then. Boxing was important, and Leon was part of that. So from my personal perspective as a 37-year veteran of the sports coverage, I'm here to praise Leon. I'm not here to bury him. I'm going to say to everybody out there that's listening to this podcast, show the man some respect. He was a heavyweight champion of the world. He was an Olympic champion of the world. That's what you are, Olympic champion of the world. He was a U.S. champion. The Spinks family deserves our respect. Because Michael getting knocked out against Tyson, he fought all comers before he lost to Tyson, was destroyed. But he fought well against Larry Holmes. Good representative for the family. But the 76 Olympics, it's special to us in Canada, and he was part of that. So I hope, Leon, you rest in peace, and if we see you in heaven down the road, just remember that there are people out there in the media that do respect you. Like I said, I read stuff about you before you turned pro. I read all the write-ups about that fight, especially Ring Magazine, where they held back the press to get your fight in and gave a nice write-up. And every person that saw that first fight thought you won it. And for that, you bet Ali, even though it's 5 years past his prime. You can never take that away from you. You were heavyweight champion of the world. And a little bit of luck, and if you would have took a better pat, you wouldn't have been defeated Holmes because of the clash of style. But Dwight Braxton could have been easily defeated, but the problem is Dwight was hungry. If you remember, this guy took on Holyfield and Mike Rossman and Spinks and all these people. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a really bad month. We're losing a lot of celebrities, a lot of athletes. But again, if any members of the Spinks family is listening to this podcast, you have my condolences. Everybody across Canada that's real boxing fan, have affection for Leon, for the Spinks family, and like I said, keep punching. Have a good evening. Bye.